Good morning, my name is Amanda Cavalier. I'm here to talk to you today about something really cool. I'm from Vanguard College of Cosmetology, so we are a Paul Mitchell partner school located in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I got some really exciting news to tell you today. It's about a system that's going to completely change the way you cut hair. So what I'd love to show you first is this. Now you may be looking at this saying, what does that say? Anybody would say that. It's missing a few things, right? So a long time ago, we all learned something called the alphabet, and it's a very effective system that when used in its entirety, it makes everything make sense. So I lick sandy backs. What I've decided is that I don't want to use E's anymore. I don't like E's, and I don't think that it's something that I should write down. Now, what if we did that with systems? It wouldn't really work out, right? If I would use the whole system of the alphabet, you'd know that I like sandy beaches. However, since I left one little tiny part out of that system, nothing in this sentence makes sense. So I have a really cool system that I'm going to show to you guys today that when used in its entirety, it is the most effective system for cutting hair. So this system actually has shown me great success behind the chair. Not only behind the chair, but also in the school system. It helps everyone really understand how to cut hair, which is why I'm so excited to share it with you today. What we're going to do, we are going to learn a few things. It's the Paul Mitchell cut system. So right here I have a little agenda for you. Today what we're going to start to learn is our 3 principles of dimension. We're going to learn section angle accuracy, hand and body position, phases of a haircut, bone structure, and then we're going to go a little bit into tools. That way you can kind of see and use the tools that the pros use, right? So first thing that we're going to go into today is going to be our 3 principles of dimension. So I want you to think about all the movies that are out right now. So one I saw a few weeks ago, Jurassic Park, the new Jurassic World. The cool thing about that movie is that when I got there, I didn't know, but I had purchased 3D tickets, which meant that I got the cool little nerdy glasses and the dinosaurs were actually coming out to me in the audience. Now, what made that different than a flat screen, just regular movie without the glasses and all the frills, is the 3 principles of dimension were actually in my face at that moment. So, height, width, and depth. So height. Height is going to be the vertical distribution of weight, so up and down is vertical. It's going to be controlled by elevation. Elevation is nothing more than the degree of lift placed on hair. So if I have Miss Susie here and I'm elevating her hair, I would take vertically and lift up and down, and that's going to be the degree of lift placed on hair, which is elevation. The technique is actually determined by elevation, and the cool thing about the technique is that we have 3 that you're going to learn today. They can either keep weight, build weight, or remove weight, and we have 3 options. So we have a 1 length, a graduation, and layers. Now a 1 length is going to be used with 0° elevation. It's just straight down from natural fall. We're not going to lift the hair whatsoever. It's at 0°. Graduation is going to be between 1 and 89, so I would lift the hair just slightly. And then layers is going to be 90 degrees and above. It's going to actually remove weight. So I have keep weight, build weight, and remove weight. And that's our 1 length, graduation, and layers. Next, we're going to have width. So width is the horizontal distribution of weight. So when I think about width, I think about how wide something is, and that's described as a horizontal characteristic. It's the measurement of weight from front to back, and it's controlled by over, direction, and finger angle. So we talked about elevation. Elevation is the degree of lift placed on the hair. This is a little bit different, however, so this is going to be forward and backward versus up and down, which was elevation. So over direction is forward and backward. Now it's going to control the geometric shape of a haircut. Geometric shape's pretty cool because it gives you options. We can combine them in any way, shape, or form in combination cuts and such. But when we're talking about geometric shape, I'm talking about 3. I'm talking about round, triangular, and square. Now a round geometric shape is going to be short in the front to longer in the back. So it's actually going to be a line, short in front to longer in back. Triangular, I'm going to start shorter in the back to longer in the front. And then a square geometric shape is just going to be equal length all the way around. Now depth is the third principle of dimension. But before we get into depth, what I would love for us to do is the Paul Mitchell cutting system, and pretty much every system that we have something called the skill cards, and the skill cards are very, very useful. So I would love for you to take them out right now. In there, we're going to have different areas. So you have your cutting system, your texture system, all that stuff. What we're looking at right now is our cutting system. I can see my height and my width combined in any shape or form in every haircut. So for instance, you're going to come across your round one lengths. I'm going to have, round graduations, round layers that I can move into triangular one lengths, so on and so forth. And they're combined in any way, shape, or form in here. So this is a really great tool to utilize as well. So in talking about the three principles of dimension, the next one's going to be depth. And depth is nothing more than the length of the haircut, so how long it actually is. It's created by height and width, so I need both of those dimensions in order to create my depth. And it's controlled by tension, over direction, elevation, and finger angle. So it comes in three categories. I can have short, medium, or long. And it's really cool because it's a really good language to use when we're actually in class or anywhere in the world that you're learning something about hair. If it's a John Paul Mitchell Systems cut, you're always going to know what short means, what medium means, and what long means. So short is going to be chin and shorter. Medium is going to be chin to shoulder, and then long is going to be from shoulder down. So just depending on where that falls, that's our three categories in depth. Now next we're going to learn about factors that affect the haircut within these three principles of dimension. And the really cool thing about this is that sometimes we don't think about everything that we need to talk about in our consultation, which is honestly the most important part of a service, getting to understand what that guest really wants and what we can do to help them. The factors that affect the haircut are going to do just that for us. If we follow these things, it's going to help us answer those questions straight off the bat. So the first one is going to be guest desired length. What do you want? What length would you look for in today's cut? Texture is going to be nothing more than the diameter of each individual hair strand. So is it fine, is it medium, or is it coarse? It will all have an effect in that end result within that haircut. Formation. Formation is nothing more than is the hair straight, wavy, curly, or extra curly. You're going to see density. Density is the amount of hair per square inch on that head. So depending on how much hair, is it thick, is it thin, is it medium, that's going to have an effect on the haircut as well. The current condition. So if I have my friends who constantly lighten the ends of their hair, they might do it at home a few times in between my services. And it may not have the best integrity, but they want to keep all that length. It might be a good professional recommendation that I bring that length up just a little bit. Even if it's a little shorter than what they want, I can recommend it before I actually cut it just to get their feedback. But current condition, if I can't leave that hair there just to show that integrity, then that might be a recommendation that I would have based on their current condition. Facial features. So if I have a guest who does not like their ear showing, I would never want to cut around that ear because I'm going to show that ear. Same thing with the nose. If people are very self-conscious about the way their nose looks, straight across bangs would draw straight attention straight to that one area of their face. However, if I had someone who had cute gauges or some great earrings or a great earring collection, and they always wanted to show their ears, I would cut it out. So it could go positive or negative within that facial features, but we always have to be very conscious of it. And then lifestyle, which is extremely important. In my career, I've had a million different people with a million different professions, and each haircut really did depend on what they did for a living. So some of my band members who would tour, or whether it would be a judge or a bank teller, or whatever that looked like, really depended on how edgy or how sophisticated I could get with that cut, and the length as well. So a lot of my ball players who needed to keep their hair really, really short, or my runners, my female runners who always had to put their hair back in ponytails. That also determined that haircut. So what I'm trying to say is that our consultation is key, and this is a really good roadmap for that consultation. So next we're going to have section angle accuracy. Now section angle accuracy is really cool because it's us creating road lines inside of that head as to what actually should be cut on the exterior. So I'm depicting on the interior what I'm bringing out on the exterior. So it's a system of creating lines to create accurate end results, and it works every single time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you another cool tool that we have within our systems. So in John Paul Mitchell Systems, we have the cutting system DVD. So this would be, it's found on predominantly any disc. It's going to show you just as little refreshers. So this is actually disc 1. It's the round cut DVD with Dave. And this is going to, I clicked underneath principles, then you can go under sectioning. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and watch sectioning, and then we'll kind of dive into it just as a little refresh straight after.
Section angle accuracy.
Cool, so that was section angle accuracy. Now, one great thing about section angle accuracy, I told you already, clean and consistent results every time. But we actually have different lines that we can carve out internally within that hair to create it externally. So vertical, diagonal, and horizontal, we have 3 options. So my vertical sectioning is going to reduce the density or the weight in the hair, and it's going to be great for layers. So I can hold it up in a vertical characteristic, so my fingers can be completely vertical, and it's going to help me create those layers. Now in a vertical dimension, it's going to give you a flatter look, and horizontally it's going to give you more of a curved look if I'm using that vertical sectioning. Horizontal sectioning is going to help me build weight, so we know that horizontal is straight across. It's going to really help me build those weight lines. So if I carve horizontally, my fingers move out horizontally. It's going to give you a flatter dimension within that horizontal element of the haircut, and then a rounder dimension within that vertical characteristic. It's really great for one length, so a lot of times we use our horizontal in our one lengths. And then diagonal sectioning is going to be somewhere in between. It's going to distribute the weight both vertically and horizontally because I don't have a straight line either way. I have one that's slightly in the middle to where I know that it's going to have properties of both that vertical and horizontal line. So we predominantly use it for round or triangular shapes where that line goes either forward or backward. And it's really good for graduation. So we use a lot of diagonal lines for graduation. Now, in order to do this, we are going to have to check out these 4 basic things. Identify and understand angles, determine the desired technique, so that has a lot to do with it. As we learned, each one of them has a different characteristic within that section angle accuracy. We're going to determine the geometric shape, so is it round, triangular, or square? That's going to have a very big effect on that as well. And then we're going to cut parallel to that section angle. So whatever I carve on the interior is what I will cut on that exterior. And that section angle accuracy, it's a system of creating consistent end results every time. So with that, we're going to learn a little bit about hand and body position. And believe it or not, the position of your body is going to have a great effect on that actual outcome within the haircut that we've chosen. So it's the position of your body, feet, and hands. It's going to control the complete creation of the cut. So we're going to talk today about lower body, we're going to talk about upper body, and then we're going to talk about what our hands actually do. So some really cool things up here. I drew some little diagrams so you can see a walking pattern. But I'll actually show that to you today. So we're going to first explore our square geometric shape. So my lower body is actually going to control that geometric shape. So where I stand is going to have a great effect and impact on the actual geometric shape that comes out in this haircut. And it's so funny, every time I teach it, someone doesn't believe me, and it always proves right. So if I'm cutting a square geometric shape, I'm going to stand flat horizontal to every section that I actually cut. So in the back, I'd stand flat. If I want to move over, that's fine, but I have to move over completely flat, both side to side. That way I don't walk into those corners, because we know squares have corners. So if I were to come cut this side, I would have to completely flatten myself on the side and be able to cut the same exact way that I did in that back, just now I'm on the side. So if I were to put a box straight over this head, that's the lines that I can actually walk in. Triangular geometric shape, I know that the slant goes down in the front, so we're shorter in the back to longer. I'm going to stand at my shortest point always, because it's easier. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my center leg here, and I can move this one forward to where my geometric shape is going just how my lower body is. And same thing on this side, so I would lunge forward this way, that way I'm standing triangular. Then I have my round geometric shape. If I was standing at the shortest point for triangular, which is in the back, and I know that the shortest point now is in the front, I'm going to come right around and stand in my shortest point. Now I can walk in my corners because I have none. It's a round geometric shape. Circles have no corners. So I'm going to start here. I can walk all the way around to the back center, continue to cut, stop, and when I want to work on that other side, I'm going to come straight to the front again, and then I'm going to walk straight around to that back center once more, and that way my lower body is depicting that round geometric shape, and it really, really does have an impact. A lot of times, and if you guys want for next week, I'll go ahead and tape out the floor depending on what geometric shape, and you'll very visually see that it will help you. Now, our upper body is going to control how I lift, move, and elevate the hair. So it's going to control the technique. So what am I doing? Am I doing a one length, a graduation, or layers? My upper body is going to be what actually controls that. Now your elbows and shoulders are always going to be parallel to the line that you're cutting. So if I'm cutting horizontal, my elbows and shoulders need to be horizontal. The minute one drops, I'm going to naturally lift this one up, and now I have a whole new angle. So depending on what my upper body looks like is really going to depend on what the outcome of that cut actually is. Your arms control weight distribution. So, and our weight distribution is determined by lines. So we have to make sure that we are 100% with that haircut, okay? Hand position also plays a major part. I mean, it's what we cut with. Our hand position is very, very important. So we have tension and finger angle. Tension is the degree of stress placed on a section of hair, whether it be in your fingers or in a comb. A lot of times when we cut one lengths, we do something called an in-comb technique. And what that means is that I'd actually take that comb, bring it down, and at that bottom line, cut right underneath that comb, using my comb as a guide, whether it's diagonal forward or diagonal backward. I would use that comb as no tension, or I can use my fingers and create tension. So if I'm cutting up, I actually have that tension in my hand to create a very clean line. So it varies with texture, information, and density, the amount of tension that I actually place on that hair. We know that we have to cut different textures, different formations in different ways. Finger angle is going to determine the heaviness of the technique vertically, and it's also going to determine the steepness of a geometric shape horizontally. So if I'm cutting a graduation and I have a very steep line that I'm trying to create, I'm going to hold my fingers differently than if I wanted it to be a little bit more blended. So depending on how steep I actually place my fingers, that weight line is going to depend on that, whether I'm more vertical or I'm more at a 45-degree angle. So we have options as well. We have in-comb, we have palm to palm, and we have overhand, and it's going to be how our hands actually control that cut. So in-comb, I've already showed you, we comb, we cut right underneath that line. What that's going to do is give us a very clean line to follow, so our one lengths are very precise and accurate. Palm to palm, we all have clapped at something in our life. That's exactly how we do it. So it's very good for graduations. I would take my angle, whether it be steep or more vertical, and I would come in here with my palm facing my other palm and cuts actually to that line. So really good for graduation. And then overhand is going to be a little bit closer to layers. So what I would do is I would take my section up, my palms both facing down to the ground, and I could cut there. Now always making sure that I don't cut past my second knuckle because it's very easy to cut the skin past that area. So we're just trying to keep that in check. So that's our hand position. We have something called phases of the haircut. And phases of the haircut, it's really cool because it's a complete guide as to what you need to do and what comes next. So first, we're going to create the basic shape. Now, like I said, this is executing a haircut from start to finish. And the first thing we need to do is actually create that basic shape. So we're going to use our height, we're going to use our width, we're going to use our depth. What am I looking for? Great consultation, create that basic shape. The next thing is cross-checking. So I'm going to cut a few sections, cross-check. Cut a few sections, cross-check. That way I don't get too off track. Imagine cutting a whole entire haircut, never cross-checking, and getting to one side, realizing you've gained an inch. If we cross-check, we'll take care of that in the beginning. Next, we're going to blow dry. So we're going to pre-dry, and we're also going to finish in the way we cut the hair. So I have two cool things I'm going to show you today, three really. It's different blow dry techniques, and one of them is a pre-dry. The other two is going to be a finishing option. And these are very, very common within our cut system. So little Susan's been drying a little bit, so I'm going to wet her down. And we're going to do some really basic sectioning. So I'm going to take and do what I call Oreo sectioning, right? Who doesn't love Oreos? So we're going to have a cookie, the cream, and another cookie right here. So it's 3 horizontal sections. So I'm going to start with her natural part, leaving it intact. I'm just going to section this real quick for you. So starting at the top, move it around. I'm making sure I'm fairly clean because I do not want my end result to be messy. And if a few fall, it's fine. Just have to make sure that we're nice and clean. I'm going to do my next one. So I have a cookie. Now I need the cream. We're going to start here. Work my way around to get that bottom section already and the middle section out of the way. There we go. And the bottom section we can leave hanging because that's where we're actually going to start. So what I'm going to use, I'm going to go ahead and use my 413, which is my baby paddle brush. You can use the big one as well. I just like this one. I feel like it gives me a little bit more control. So I'm going to lean her slightly to the side. Now, I'm going to come around this way, so you're going to see my back for a few seconds, but I'll turn around, no worries. We're going to start by brushing everything this way, and this is going to be our directional pre-dry method, which I just want to blow dry those roots to give the roots a little bit of direction. So we're going to start here. You're going to see me take diagonal back sections, working my way all the way across, and then what you would generally do is you come back this way and work all the way across again to give the hair 2 separate directions in which it's going so it's not stuck in one way. And like I said, I'm just blow drying the roots, so I'll do that really quick for you guys. So I'm going to start with 3 pumps at the root. I go 1, 2, 3 with the blow dryer. I remove the blow dryer to brush through the ends, so I'm not blow drying those ends. I'm leaving them wet because that is what we do in our finish. So after I get that root really nice and done, I'm going to come back 3 more pumps. And I'm going to keep taking that diagonal horizontal section all the way across until I reach the ends. Once I get here, I'm going to come back the opposite way and go that way. So that's just a really great way to do our pre-dry. It's directional, and it's going to give the hair a little bit of movement, but not a ton of body because we're not looking for that in this method. So I'm going to put this brush down and trade it for my 407. Take these sections down. Now generally, when you do leafing and beveling, you're going to want to do, I call it beach ball sections or pizza sections, where you take and do 5 sections, so 3 vertical in the back and 1 on each side. But for time's sake today, I'm going to show you just in this one little front section. So I'm going to part right behind the ear, which we're going to learn the technical term for that in a second. I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to part this top. Now I'm going to run through this real quickly with you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lead, and then I'm going to bevel at the end. So I'm smoothing that hair out, and then I'm beveling the very end. So I'm coming in, smoothing. And then when I get to the very end, I'm going to take my blow dryer, flip my brush, and almost make like a crescent moon shape to just get those ends a little bit of bump right under, and it's going to really lay real nice and cute. So that's how that goes. And that's 2 of the options for our blow dry techniques, or pre-dry and a finish. So number 4, we're going to refine. So that's where we actually we're going to cut in, get rid of any weight lines that we don't want, anything like that, and then style and finish. This is where we get to put a personal touch on it. So style and finish, do they want curls? Do they want smooth? What are they looking for? And we can really finish that hair in that direction. Now, bone structure is something really cool as well, because we have a universal language for talking about the head and different reference points. So we're going to go over a few today. You have your frontal bone, should have had a V8 right in the front. We have our parietal, which is going to be found all the way around. If I actually take a comb, place it on my head, it's where the comb leaves the head. That's going to be my parietal plate. Place a comb at the very top, the highest point at the head where it actually lays is going to be your apex. So you have temporal bones. This always reminds me of tempura shrimp. It makes me hungry, but it also gives me a headache, right? So it's where we rub when we have headaches. And then we have mastoid process, which is found right behind. It's a small bone right behind your ear. And then I have the occipital, which is lower. It's found all around here. Our nape, which is our neck. And then we also have the crown, which is going to be the drop lower area, which is connected all right here. So these are really good to know, because when we're doing diagrams or anything like that, we have to know reference points in the head when anyone's talking about a haircut, so we can actually follow that map with them. Now, the very last thing I want to talk to you about is tools. So Paul Mitchell makes crazy pro tools. They're great because it's what the pros use. And the wonderful part about it is that not only do we teach you how to cut hair, we're going to teach you what to use to get those great results. So a few things that you're going to need for cutting. We have our all-purpose combs, our 308s, that we'll always use for cutting. The 2 brushes that I've mentioned before. We have different paddle brushes, round brushes, things like that. Great selection of blow dryers. We have a bunch of new tools that have just come out, our Neuro. Smoothing irons, like I said. We have our Pro Tools, we have our Neuros. So just depending on your scope of what you're looking to do would be what you use. And our scissors are also going to vary, so depending on what you cut is going to depend on the actual length of scissors. So I have my short scissors for doing anything from layers to, some people like to use them for graduations. Graduations are primarily done with medium scissors, and then you have your 1 lengths and men's cutting, which is used with your really long scissors. So that's a little quick rundown on your tools. So in your product knowledge workbook, actually, on page 42, you can find all of this in there to gain a little bit more knowledge about the tools. So that's something really cool to check out whenever you get a chance. So what I'd like to do is ask you a few questions. So what aspects of the cutting system are best to you? And what systems would you want to put in place right away when you start cutting? That's right, we'd want to do all of them, because the system is not complete without everything inside of it. So generally right now we'd go over all the parts of the bones just to get a quick little refresh. So this is, that's right, the temporal. The frontal, I am so sorry, the frontal. I'm really hungry right now. And then this would be the temporal. We're gonna have the mastoid behind the ears. And we can reference that whenever we want to. It's actually in your cut workbook, so whenever you have it, you're good to go. Review, so let's page 76 in your workbook. There's a little thing called What Am I? So do me a favor, let's commit to doing that and really finding out what you are. We can go over that next week when you come back in. And also, as a little bit of home play, what I'd love to see you guys do is to grab your skill cards, grab some diagram sheets, which are going to be right at the door when you're exiting, and I would love to see you actually take and diagram those 3 haircuts over the weekend. There's a diagram cut key in there. And also reference that DVD. We're going to start with our square one length, so that's what I want you to watch first. Guys, I'm really excited about this cutting system, and I cannot wait to start this journey with you. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I do, and I hope you find the value in it. Like I said, let's commit to getting those things done. I'm going to double check those for you, but thank you so much for your time today, and I hope you had a great time.